Elon Musk's Starlink satellite service will support internet access for internationally recognized aid organizations in Gaza, which has faced a telecommunications blackout. Starlink, operated by Musk's SpaceX, offers internet access via satellites in low Earth orbit. Israel's communications minister has threatened to cut contact with Starlink, expressing concerns about its potential use by Hamas for terrorist activities. The World Health Organization has expressed interest in using Starlink to connect with their staff and health facilities in Gaza, as UN agencies and NGOs reported communication loss in the region. Gaza residents reportedly broke into UNRWA warehouses due to shortages of basic survival items amid the ongoing conflict in a tight siege on Gaza. The situation is raising concerns about civil order breaking down in the region after 3 weeks of war. Aid supplies have been limited since the conflict began on October 7th, impacting the community's basic survival needs. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi warns of challenges on the path to a potential summit between President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Joe Biden. Wang's recent meeting with Biden and U.S. officials aimed to pave the way for the expected bilateral meeting at an Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum summit. He stressed the need to build on previous consensus, overcome obstacles, and address differences to improve Sino-U.S. relations. Discussions covered military, financial, scientific, and geopolitical issues. China's top security agency previously indicated the summit depended on the U.S. demonstrating sufficient sincerity. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres expressed surprise at Israel's escalation of bombardments in Gaza and reiterated the call for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire to facilitate aid delivery. He had previously seen a growing consensus for a humanitarian pause in the fighting, but recent developments have undermined this objective. The conflict in Gaza, prompted by an attack on October 7th, has led to a humanitarian catastrophe, with both Israeli and Palestinian casualties. A communications blackout in Gaza has raised concerns about UN staff delivering aid, while calls for a ceasefire have grown louder worldwide. Nikki Haley criticizes Donald Trump for praising foreign strongmen and calls for a leader who can put things back together at the Republican Jewish Coalition's annual meeting in Las Vegas. The Republican presidential candidates express unanimous support for Israel's offensive against Hamas, marking a departure from their divisions on U.S. support for Ukraine against Russia's invasion. Michigan Muslims and Arab Americans are reconsidering their support for President Biden due to feelings of betrayal over his stance on Israel during the recent conflict. Tensions have escalated, with a listening session at the White House for frustrated members of these communities and a controversial meeting between the president and Muslim figures chosen by the White House. This rift underscores the impact of the Israel-Gaza conflict on the relationship between the president and some of his traditionally loyal voters. Former Vice President Mike Pence abruptly ended his financially struggling presidential campaign during a speech at the Republican Jewish Coalition Donor Conference in Las Vegas. Pence, who had been attempting to position himself as an alternative to Donald Trump, acknowledged that it wasn't his time to run. While he didn't endorse any candidate, he emphasized the need for a Republican leader who appeals to the better angels of our nature and leads with civility. Trump suggested Pence should endorse him, but also mentioned potential disloyalty in politics. The race now sees the emergence of other candidates, including Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. The death toll from Hurricane Otis in Acapulco, Mexico, has risen to 39, with President López Obrador accusing opponents of exaggerating the disaster's scale. The Category 5 storm struck with 165 miles per hour winds, causing widespread destruction and flooding. Residents in hard-hit areas have criticized the government for inadequate aid, including food and water. The government is under scrutiny for the handling of the disaster, and concerns exist that the death toll may increase. The cost of devastation is estimated to be in the billions. Mexican authorities consider Otis the most powerful storm to hit the Pacific coast. A month-long synod convened by Pope Francis concluded with a document emphasizing the need for a larger role for women in the Roman Catholic Church. However, it deferred discussions on major issues, including the ordination of women as deacons and outreach to LGBTQ+ Catholics. The meeting aimed to find common ground but left many hoping for significant change disappointed, as sensitive topics like same-sex union blessings and married priests were not addressed. Vatican officials sought to reduce tensions and promote unity, highlighting the need for a church on the move. Israeli ambassador to the UN Gilad Erdogan criticized Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan for his recent remarks against Israel, stating that a snake will remain a snake and accusing him of being an anti-Semite. Erdogan had called Israel a war criminal and expressed support for Hamas during a pro-Palestine rally. In response, Israel recalled its diplomats from Turkey. Energy Minister Israel Katz condemned Erdogan for supporting Hamas-Daesh terror, and Foreign Minister Eli Cohen ordered a re-evaluation of Israel-Turkey relations. In a televised address, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared that Israeli forces entered the Gaza Strip on Friday, marking the start of the second stage of the war. He referred to the campaign as our second war of independence and cautioned of a long and challenging battle. Military officials had reported that Israeli troops, supported by extensive aerial and artillery strikes, entered the northern part of the Gaza Strip on Friday, and clashes with Hamas's armed forces continued on Saturday. The situation remains tense.